expenditure is higher. This is how they got their name, the butcher bird, in the first place, since they're the only shrike that practice this larder technique, which is placing their meat on hooks like actual butchers.
Both of these techniques are perfected with practice from a young age. Newly fledged loggerhead shrikes imitate behaviors like hawking or impaling without the actual prey. They even chase around their own parents to practice hunting. That's a whole new flavor of teenage angst. Despite their ruthless hunting behaviors, males of this species are generous lovers.
Are known as larders or pantries and are very useful during the winter and the mating season when energy expenditure is higher. This is how they got their name, the butcher bird, in the first place, since they're the only shrike that practice this larder technique, which is placing their meat on hooks like actual butchers.
Both of these techniques are perfected with practice from a young age. Newly fledged loggerhead shrikes imitate behaviors like hawking or impaling without the actual prey. They even chase around their own parents to practice hunting. That's a whole new flavor of teenage angst. Despite their ruthless hunting
All right. Hello, hello. How are we sounding, everybody? Good to see ya. How much if I make that full screen? There we go. That's better. So yeah, this just popped up, and I saw Snake just posted it like just 20 minutes ago. So let's do it. I don't know anything about. I know Snake, and I know who Jamie is. I've seen Jamie. I don't know these two. So all right. Hello, hello. How are we sounding, everybody? Make sure to let me know if I sound all right, if the volume's all right on everything. And here we go. Let's get right into it.
Creation, which is Nathan and Jamie versus Dr. Chris Thompson and Snake. Snake was right. And tonight we're going to have Team Creation going first. Nathan's going to be the very first. They're going to get 7 minutes for their opening statement. So Nathan, at your first word, I will start your timer. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Kaz. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. This is going to be about creation and evolution. And so in my opener here, I want to kind of state a premise to why I believe
Here
this is
to
an
breathe.
important discussion. I know some people that are on the evolution side will say that in the fields of science that it's already settled and it's not a debate. It's not unreasonable to think that people who go to school and are taught evolution also apply that to their worldview. But I do think that this is important for a few reasons. I'll get into my personal one after this, but I did actually want to share my screen here and get into, let's see, share screen.
So who is Pitch Lumen? I know they said his name is Nathan Thompson, which always makes me think of the flat earther. And I said no, it's not. Because I heard about this debate. I just haven't watched it yet. All right, let's do this.
Is there a way to share?
Yeah, so if you go to the bottom and you see where it says present, the
Yep.
TV symbol, click on that. Click on share screen. And then if you're doing it, yeah, there you go. You got it.
Okay, so if up here I have a few tabs, and these are actually some things by the military. I think part of why this is such an important discussion is because it is determining who we are. It is determining what we are,
secret
what our
special
responsibilities
handling
are towards one another. If we are animal humans or if we are soul-containing humans.
Operation Northwood Memorandum, 1962.
So what I actually have here is this is.
Hold on, before he gets too far into this, I want to pull up and see what this is, what this memorandum is. Okay, so hang in here with me. It is Operation Northwoods Memorandum. (1962) was it? There we go. Operation Northwoods. Operation Bingo. The False Flag. Proposed false flag operation against American citizens that originated within the U.S. Department of Defense of the United States government in 1962. The proposal called for CIA operatives to both stage and commit acts of violent terrorism against American military and civilian targets, blaming them on the Cuban government, using it to justify war against Cuba. Yeah, sure, spin doctors. I agree. Those are a thing. Okay. I'm with you so far.
This is a proposal by the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States military wanting to propose an attack on our own people. And this is called Operation Northwoods. They wanted to attack Miami, D.C. to try to start a false flag war. And so this in the military, there is something called desensitizing. So you have to get people to see others as enemies, as animals, as lesser than human, and not as human beings with a.
Instead of trying to say that we're taking humans down to the animal level, why not say we're lifting animals up to the human level? I don't know what your problem is with that. animals are amazing and fantastic. You act like that's an insult to be an animal. I love that I'm an animal. I love it. I love my my animal cells and my animal brain and my animal bone structure. I love being an animal. It's not a problem. Not a problem.
Life with family, with loved ones, with goals and dreams and things that they want to do in this life. You get here, this is something called Operation Top Hat, where our own military did use a nerve agent on the military personnel of our own country without asking them. And so this is kind of something that is unethical, but if you're testing and it's for research, then you can do it. And if you can do it to your own military,
Operation Top Hat,
you should also be able to do it to your own people, according to...
Military's trash. I get it. And humans are garbage at taking care of our own people. I'm with you. I don't understand what this has to do with evolution. Not liking evolution or certain implications of biological evolution doesn't in any way disprove evolution. It doesn't work against the notion that evolution is a real thing, right? It's not. That's not how any of this. That's not how any of this works.
The people that are in power and able to give orders in the military, and this is Operation Sea Spray, where they released a bacterial weapon on San Francisco without asking the people, and people were injured and somebody did die. And this could be anybody. This is this is part of why we need to have in society today, with all what is going on. We have to look at why people do not value.
Can somebody explain to me what this has to do with evolution? I don't understand. These are not points about evolution. Not liking evolutions or the implications of evolution, or how people have used the implications of evolution to do horrible things to other people because of the implications of evolution, does in no way discredit or disarm the facts and figures that we have available to prove that evolution is a factor. So we'll just have to learn how to transcend the errors of our past, the mistakes that we made as a species, but it doesn't change who we are as a species. No. We're still a unique species among the animal kingdom. Every species is unique, including ours. And within our species, there's unique groups within our species. You have your families, and we're within the mammal clade. There's things that are unique about us, like warm-bloodedness, and it rolls on down. But I don't understand what this has to do with it.
One another's lives, and then this even does get into the Gulf of Tonkin, which was a false flag.
In fact, the bioweapon aspect of what he's bringing up here. I mean, bioweapons we're able to use bioweapons because of evolution.
Event that got us into Vietnam, which caused a lot of suffering, a lot of death, a lot of trauma, death is the ultimatum. And so I wanted to share that to kind of lay a premise for why this is such an important topic. If we are animals, whatever the truth is, if we really are animals, if we really are souls, we have to know, and we have to be able to...
Yes, we are animals. There's no characteristics about us that aren't animal-like. It's going to take me forever to get through this. I haven't even got through the first guy talking yet.
Communicate. No animal has made the internet and has communication technologies that we have, where we can literally talk to one another to prevent any sort of violence from ever even happening. If you have a disagreement with someone, you talk it out and you work through it. We're not animals. We don't need to have self-defense or a need to get territorial or want to attack people. We are supposed to be reasonable, even though, unfortunately, some people may not actually carry this out in their behavior. And if they are in positions of power, they can actually do some pretty dark things. And so why I actually say that, too, is so if you're going to school to learn a science, you're going to have to learn evolution. I'm actually in the beginning processes of that. I'm going for a degree.
I just realized I forgot to tag Snake, so I was over here tagging Snake in this, so he knew I was reviewing this tonight. He just released it, so maybe he'll come into the side chat. If he does, I'll see about bringing him into the show. I have to switch which screen we're looking at, but that's fine. That'll be no problem. If Snake shows up, I will definitely bring him in, because I don't like reviewing this without them, but I do like to give my opinion as well.
Degree for nutritional cardiology, and so I actually have here. This is an angiogram, a reversal of the leading cause of death in our country. The only way in our medical data this is shown is with vegan eating, and I want to write a paper about the metabolism of human beings and why it is that we are designed to eat plants.
Oh, so he's a raw mat kind of guy. Okay. I'm here for it. Yep, bring it on.
And why it is able to get these effects of reversal of the leading cause of death, not just prevention, but someone who already has it can reverse it. And I have to write it through an evolutionary narrative. So I want to write a paper about starting from the very first life form that forms, because evolution has to start or there's nothing to even talk about. And so going from that very first life form all the way till now, addressing key
So there wasn't a very first life form, right? There's a first population of life forms. It wouldn't have been, there would have been population of proto-life and then a population of life. Like, no, there's never been just like, oh, one individual that's sprang forth. It always takes a breeding population for evolution to take place in. That's why when certain groups get whittled down to a certain degree of genetic diversity being lost, it makes them susceptible to the same illnesses and diseases and pathogens and blights, depending on whatever the clade we're talking about is.
Metabolic developmental points where we are now able to eat plants and get these reversals in heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, etc. This is done with plants, and I've gone to several professors and they don't.
I think I may be more qualified than this guy to talk about this dietitian stuff. Not like on a super. I hate doxing myself, but let's just say I have. Well, some of you all know me personally, know that I have. My degrees are in the medical field, so that's where I'm educated in. So I may be, especially talking about pharmaceutical stuff, but
there's no start for life. We don't ever observe anywhere in nature where there's an increase,
like diabetes and things like that, and all vegetable diet, stopping diabetes. That's some dangerous information there. People do all sorts of crazy things to try to avoid having to deal with their diabetes. I don't recommend trying to fight is this guy going to be like full on medical disinformation here? Because this is going to be a lot of stop and go. No, a vegetable diet is not the end all be all to fighting diabetes. Now, a better, healthier diet is a balanced diet, and I'm not saying that as he's talking about being a vegan. I'm not a vegan. I'm a pescatarian. I have 2 days a week that I actually eat chicken on. Just because, I don't know, I feel like I need some protein. I don't know. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm working on it. Start off with, I used to have 1 day a week I ate beef. That day is gone now. And now I most days I eat a fairly vegan diet. We Americans have way too much meat in their diets in general. So I can't speak for any other country. I know here that we do. Like the meat portion in a standard meal in the U.S. is way. What do you need help with, hon? Dr. Mordecai, what do you need help with? Anyway, yeah, so I do agree that that healthier diets will be a good response to a diabetes diagnosis, but follow the advice of your doctor. Generally, you'll have a pre-diabetic diagnosis before that. So follow the advice of your doctor. Good diets and exercise are always a good way to keep your body healthy in general. And you can go towards combating your diabetes by cutting down on your meat consumption. Now this is true, but it's no way is it a alternative treatment plan.
It's an energy and an increase in order. It's one or the other. And this is the start of evolution. You can't talk about a tree if there's no seed. You can't have a building that's held up if there's no foundation and first floor. And then so that's at the very start. And then essentially, if you can't show that you can even start your idea, then the rest of it is taken on belief that it can happen naturally. And if you have to involve a creator for theistic evolution, then that would just essentially make it supernatural anyway. So you're no longer in the realm of science. I do believe that many evolutionary scientists are good people.
1 minute.
They mean well. The science is legit for a lot of what they do. It's a very thin veneer of worldview that gets put onto things, interpretations that can be made. I think it's there are predictions that can be made with either model. But even if you want to say evolution can't make predictions because nothing has any guidance towards where it's going in the future, so there wouldn't be able to be a prediction of when what would turn into what. If you would,
so that's the thing. It's not what turned into what. The changes happen over time. Nothing suddenly turns into to what. What doesn't turn into what. It is what it is. The next generation is what it is, but it's a little bit different than what it was. I mean, I don't understand. It's not enough. There's not enough differences from one generation to make a leap that they've speciated. We decide at what point they've speciated. We do, looking at them, looking at their chances of producing fertile offspring. That's where we draw the line. And there are animals that are in the gray area of whether or not they've quite speciated yet. That's why we can get things like hybrids. This is real science. Real science.
This kind of is unethical, but like if you picked up a worm and dropped it on the table over and over and over time, would it develop armor, like a sort of scale?
Ooh, that's like some Lamarckian nonsense right there. That's some straight up Lamarckian nonsense. What are you talking about, Pitch Lumen? I don't even understand how you think that's how evolution would work. No, you don't. Are you talking about within the living worm? Like you're hitting the worm on the table until it develops armor? Is that in any way how you think that evolution has ever been presented to work? That's not even Lamarckianism. That's like Pokemon. That's Pokemon evolution, my friend. Pokemon evolution.
Develop new novel material to be able to protect it from falling, while they were able to do that with wings for birds and get into the air. So novel things can't be predicted and they don't actually show up. It's just a re-accessing of what is already in our gene code. So that actually, I got pretty close to the time there. But all right, Jamie, I'll throw it over to you.
All right, Jamie, your first word. I'll start your timer.
All right, so my name is Jamie. I run the Studio 215 YouTube channel. Right now, the main project that I'm doing is a Bible study, but I also have other projects
Studio
focused on evolution that will be posted as well. The main one is the Evolution Exposed video series. So I didn't really prepare anything for tonight just because the fact that creation versus evolution as a topic name is a very broad topic.
Which studio?
As Chris Thompson said, there's so many.
Does anybody know which Studio 215 Jamie's channel is? All the ones I see are the Studio 215. It's just Studio 215. And then there is, I didn't mean to delete Modern Day Debate. Let's save it. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to worry about it right now. I can always tag them later. Yes, I can prove evolution. Don't be silly, Jill. Don't be silly.
Things that we can talk.
Evolution is evident, and it's not disputable. It's funny when you guys try, though. It's cute, especially you, Jill, when you like your foundation, your foundation of scientific understanding, especially of deep time, is so underdeveloped that just even. We'd have to go back to some rudimentary level to bring you up to speed. And I'm not trying to pick on you or anything. Just from what I've heard you say in the past, And the fact that you reference Dr. Hovind, and you actually call him Dr. Hovind. Good grief.
Talk about when it comes to this subject. So I guess just overall, I kind of want to point to the fact that creation and evolution is not as different as people want to make it out to be. They are opposite sides of essentially the same spectrum. I was watching one of Chris Thompson's debates to get an idea of who he was. And at the beginning, he said, this is not a debate of science. This is a debate of philosophy. And that is 100% true. The philosophy of evolution versus the philosophy of creation. And so that's essentially what...
Yeah, I agree. That's the truth. That is the truth. Ox, yeah, I trust you, Ox. You're good. No worries. You've always been a good little ox. I don't know why you thought I was picking on you yesterday. I always, every time you come into I see you in the side chat, I come up with one of those. I say, fun fact, ox is actually short for whatever, and I come up with something that begins with OX and say that. But if you feel like I'm picking on you, I'll stop. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel that way.
What we're looking at tonight, we're not looking at science. We're looking at philosophies that add their interpretation onto science. So I am 100% okay with saying that creation is the religious interpretation from a Christianity view, whereas evolution is going to be the religious interpretation from an atheistic view. And I see you shaking his head, but we'll get into that when we get to the open discussion. Because the thing is that no matter what data is presented to you, we can literally bring you, if it was possible and I were to be able to bring you the blood of Jesus Christ and you tested it, you would find an evolutionary way to explain it. So it doesn't matter what the data is. What matters is the interpretation. That's really the biggest point that I want people.
And you guys can cut that and send it to Jill if you want. If Jill wants to know what I think of his challenge to atheists, yeah, if he wants, that's what I think of his opinion on evolution. That's what I think of Jill's opinion on evolution. You can let him know. All right, let's keep going.
People to notice here, because when we go through this,
I want to get to the.
I don't know if I'll even pull up any of my past present.
I at least want to get into the open discussion part tonight. Actually, Saturday I have a thing with I have my life in the Hive, and then I have a thing in the later that day with. The gardening channel, which here, let me drop their link because we'll be doing this. I'm supposed to send them some picture. They wanted a picture of me holding bugs though, so I got to be picky about which one I send because some of the older ones I don't like the way I look in them. So there you go, Gardens Happen. That's the channel.
Presentations during this debate, but I never quote creationists when I'm making my argument. Whenever I'm trying to make a point, I will quote an evolutionist because I know that people that believe in evolution will reject anything that comes from a creationist because they just don't find that that's a viable source, no matter how accredited they are. So what I do is I will quote evolutionists, and I actually had a debate 2 days ago where that's what I did. And in the chat of that debate, the whole thing they were saying was, you can't quote an evolutionist because they don't believe creation. So whether I quote a creationist or whether I quote an atheist, it's not good enough for the evolutionary side of the argument.
That's not true. You can quote. I would prefer that you quote you cite your sources. I don't care if they're creationists or evolutionists, as long as you cite your sources, so I can understand where you're coming from. That's the important thing.
But I just wanted to kind of set that precedent so that people can see that this is a pattern that we're going to be going through during this debate. Now, as far as evidence for creation versus evidence for evolution, I think the strongest evidence for creation in itself is the fact that there is life on Earth. There is no explanation for life. Plenty of scientists have tried to figure it out. Abiogenesis is a very hardy field of science, and as much money as they spend, as many doctors, as many scientists, as many people that are working on abiogenesis, they have absolutely zero solid answers for how life began. They all have theories. They all disagree with each other. And they all are basically, at each other's necks trying to figure out how this could have possibly happened. The fact that we have life is a miracle of God. Just like the Bible says, he formed us from the dust.
Light is just... just wavelengths that our eyes are able to pick up. The only reason that light matters is because we evolved to be able to see it. It existed without us being able to see it, which is why we developed the ability to see it, because it was beneficial to be able to see different wavelengths of light. And the more specialized it got, the better. So there you go. Understood.
And breathe life into our nostrils. So until
How?
scientists in the lab.
How do you breathe life into somebody's nostrils? Explain it to me. Show me an example of that happening. I've never heard of breathing life into nostrils except for in fairy tales and in folklore and mythology. And now you're wanting to tell me this happened in real life, and you won't tell me where. You don't tell me how. You just assert it.
Lab can bring forth life from absolute.
Because he just said it. I cite secular sources or whatever he said, and there's no secular sources that's going to tell you that.
Absolutely nothing. That means don't grab a box of molecules in a bottle that's been purified and preserved on a shelf. That means don't grab some dirt from outside like God did. That means making it from 100% scratch. Until they can do that, I'm going to go ahead and say that life in itself is the best evidence for creation. Now, as far as evolution goes,
but yeah, we know things evolve, though. We don't know that things things that were breathed life into, and there's no reason to believe that since all the molecules that make up our organic life are found in nature, right? Everything that makes up you is found in nature. There's no part of you as an organism that's not made of parts of this world. Right, so that all those pieces were already there. All the pieces of the puzzle are already there. You don't need to poof the puzzle into existence. All the ingredients already exist in the environment. They still exist in the environment. We can see them now. All the ingredients are there.
There's a lot of things that if I was an evolutionist, because I used to be on the team evolution before I, started going public with my ministry. Before I got saved, I was into evolution and I did believe it. And there's a lot of fields that could be used for very good evidence to people that don't really study, but it could be presented in such a way that it seems like convincing evidence. And yet evolutionists don't study these topics. They try and veer away from these topics because they're afraid that there's going to be a creationist perspective brought up from it. So I think it's interesting.
Wait, what topic are we steering away from? I think we're always given. I mean, I can't imagine that there's too many fields of science that there's not some professing atheists working in. What are you talking about?
That all of the things that I would have done as an evolutionist, they don't do. And all of the things that they do as an evolutionist, I find are very easy to dismantle when you actually take the time. And I understand that not everyone has the time to do it, but when you actually take the time to read the papers, see what both sides of the argument has to say.
You don't always have to take the time to read the papers. You have to understand the the fundamentals of the topic. There's so many fields that I can read a paper and not understand a damn thing that I just read. So many fields. There's more fields where that's the case than not. So I don't understand how you are claiming that you can just jump in and read any paper from any of the dozens of fields that you would have to be an expert on to disprove evolutionary biology, evolution, the theory of evolution in general. You'd have to be some kind of crazy prodigy. Not saying you're not, Jamie. I just I don't see it. It does not evident.
When you do that, you will actually see that most of the time creation has the better answer. I'm not going to use my full 7 minutes just because I just kind of wanted to set a precedence. I really like to, when it's a broad topic like creation versus evolution, I really like to just kind of hear what their points they're trying to make are, and I just kind of respond to those. So I'll go ahead and end my time now.
All right, thank you so much, Team Creation. And now we'll kick it over to Team Evolution. And I believe Snake is going first. So Snake, get your first word. I will start your timer.
All right, here's Snake. Come on, Snake. You can do it.
And if you could just make me larger, does that work? Or I can share my screen?
Sure, I can make you larger. No problem.
Okay.
1 second.
There
Okay.
we go.
So we didn't really hear much evidence at all. So creationists have a major methodological problem. Science is great, but it seems creationism doesn't understand quite what it is. The basic aim and method of science is to seek rules and principles that explain, and more importantly, predict the operation of observable things. Evolution does this, creationism cannot. We can explain lightning with Zeus, but we can't predict anything about lightning or electricity with that hypothesis. So the theory that gives us predictions is always the stronger and by definition scientific. If you can predict how something works reliably, then you
I'm probably not going to have much to say about what Snake says here. I'll just let him do his thing. I don't think that there's anything that Snake's... There may be something that Team Evolution says that I might disagree with, but I doubt it. If there... Because, I mean, it's not impossible. I got in a disagreement with fellow evolutionist in my Cindy Lincoln debate thing. So, yeah, it's always possible.
know how it works, especially if you're the first and only to do so, i.e. novel predictions. The fossil record is exclusively predictable.
And I'm going to jump off camera for just a minute. I'm still listening. I can still hear. I got my headphones on. I'm just going to go around and close the curtains because it's getting dark out. But I'll be back in just a second. Back on camera, okay?
By evolution, same for the mere existence of transitional forms, as well as predicting where in the rocks they'll be and their features. Evolution and Earth's age are cross-confirmed by nuclear physics, thermodynamics, chemistry, mathematics, archaeology, geology, paleontology, astronomy, comparative genomics, comparative anatomy, and others, as well as the numerous predictions of biological functions, fossil record predictions, uses in technology and medicine, real results. Even old Earth creationists consistently dunk on young Earthers because in science, hypotheses can be tested. Cross-confirmation and predictions are the gold standard of scientific evidence. But we do have some common ground. Creationists accept evolution happens and did happen after the Ark, but they do not accept common ancestry. So, but how do we know all elephants are the same kind? How do we know all canids are the same kind? We never saw dogs come from wolves. We never saw the speciation of elephants. We never saw triceratops come from triceratops. So what's going on here? The creationist method involves just thinking about personal experience with animals and declaring groups to be obvious. How scientific. They literally just say they feel like things belong in certain groups, and this creates problems like the fact that they group things in different groups. So they fall back on comparative anatomy. But the question is, what's the limitation of this method? How can we know where and when to stop concluding ancestry from anatomical similarity? And it is unnecessary for the creationist worldview. Creationist ministries declare fossil horses like Mesohippus is in the horse kind based on comparative anatomy. Seems obvious, right? But that's evolution from 3 toes.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I had trouble getting to let me back in. All right.
Goes to 1 toe, which is a functional design change equivalent to something as drastic as a human walking.
Yeah, let's just see that. Look at that. Dang it. Now I got
Groups
it all
to be obvious. How scientific. They literally just say they feel like things. Seems obvious, right?
So, yeah, with horses, you see these digits here reduced, and then we see them reduce and reduce and reduce until you get to this mode right here.
But that's evolution from 3 toes to 1 toe, which is a functional design change equivalent.
It doesn't stay on this slide long enough, but you can see the reduction, right? You see how the bones sink up and the ones that are lost,
to something as drastic as a human walking on 1 finger. Creationists admit this huge functional change can happen, as well as that snakes could easily have evolved from lizards. They even declare what the oldest snakes were, based only on vertebra and lower jaw fragments. How do they know these are snakes? Why do they use comparative anatomy, and where does this method stop working? Since the fossil record shows gradual change, predictable by evolution, there doesn't appear to be...
That's it right there, isn't it? Where does this stop working at? At what level does it cut off at? Exactly.
Anywhere we should stop using this method. Why? Because we observe that changes in the size, proportion, shape, orientation, location, number, function, and chemical composition of bones, as well as muscles, organs, and tissues. They can all change within creationist declared biblical kinds. Creationists cut off the evolutionary trees like this as separate creations, but there's a curious trend they all ignore, which is that the bases of these trees tend to be more similar to each other than they are to their own branches. The base of the wolf kind, the base of the cat kind, the base of the weasel kind, and the base of the carnivore kind all look like the exact same animals. Coincidence? Even
They do. They all look like a little myacid, right?
bears and seals terminate with the same body plan of small flat-footed carnivores at the root of their families, which means by creationist methods, the tree of similarities should look more like this, if they were consistent. Creationists have to shove thousands of species into kinds because they can't fit them all in Noah's Ark. So saber-toothed cats and all other cats are considered related by this process of comparative anatomy. Same with fossil horses and modern horses, but this establishes a high degree of variation within their kinds. The gap within horses is larger than the gap between the roots of horses and other kinds like tapirs. So that's only consistent with this pattern. The amount of accepted
the formula of perseodactyl toes in the tapir is like at a halfway point between like what a rhino's foot is like and what a horse's foot is like. So there's like this tapir's foot morphology is intermediate there, and ancestral horses, as you saw, the ones that had the 3 toes, that's those ones are really close to the condition of ancient tapirs too. Yeah,
variation or diversity within kinds is larger than the gaps between the kinds, especially when we add in transitional forms that
yeah, see, and you got the Bengal cat and the genet here. These are 2 groups of Feliformia that are really basal, right? You could also add in how basally similar mustelids and what's, I don't want to mispronounce it. Mastoles are the like mongooses and meerkats. I'm trying to think of it's escaping me because I'm trying to think of it. Oh well.
Bridge the gaps. If it's in its own kind, the diversity overlaps. If it's in one of the 2 kinds, it just increases the accepted diversity range within it and shrinks the gap to non-existence, resulting in a unified kind. So there is a major methodological problem here. Meanwhile, this relationship with a much larger morphological gap is accepted based on nothing but morphology. So what's going on here? It's inconsistent. Smaller gaps are not accepted for some reason. To demonstrate this is a paper showing creationists tried to come up with methods categorizing biblical kinds or baramins, but this backfired. It's about morphological distance.
Yeah, this is where I feel like I got one over on Peter with this, but maybe he disagrees. But not Peter. It wasn't Peter on this one. We did look at a schematic like this with Peter, but it wasn't this one.
Of clusters having larger size gaps between them than the total size of the cluster itself, but as more fossils were discovered, the gaps shrank and the baramins collapsed in each other. Creationist methods proved birds are dinosaurs. If evolution was true, how would we know? Predictions and cross-confirmation. Dating methods predict where oil reserves will be, thus it is used to find oil. Evolution predicts where fossils are and what they are, thus it is used to find them and predict other things about biology. Creationism cannot do either and is thus scientifically useless. It serves only to protect religious myths. We can use sciences to be so sure of events that have no witnesses or no records that can't be reviewed that we can convict people beyond a reasonable doubt. On the flip side, how do we know certain hypotheses are incorrect? Incorrect preclusionary evidence. In order to preclude evolution, creationists need to show some kind of limitation that would prevent.
I love this too. Look at that. Even the angle of the body is so close to the same that you can see how the evolution of these organisms, slowly took shape.
These animals from being related, but they can't. Every single change necessary here has been observed. Same with these fossils. Same with these fossils. Same with these fossils. Same with these fossils. Meaning that these 2, which are the beginning and the end of that series, are connected by a series of animals that are all the same kind by creationist methods. Can creationists preclude these changes? Absolutely not. Can science preclude creationism? Yes. And Here are just a couple ways: the heat problem, the plankton problem, and the limestone deposition problem. If our dating methods are wrong, that means the amount of radioactive decay in the creationist young Earth would have melted the Earth several times over, the equivalent of several 100,000 thermonuclear bombs per square mile. The amount of plankton found in the fossil record would have made the oceans a jelly sludge during Noah's flood, and the known limestone deposition rate would need to be sped up miraculously. The Creationist Rate Project tried to find a solution to the heat problem, but concluded only a miracle or
Yeah, they'd have to like just snow dead brachiopods and such to account for all the limestone and chalk that we have deposited around the world. It would just have to have just rained that way for the whole thousands and thousands of years consistently on a 6,000-year time frame to account for it.
exotic new physics could solve it. This is about science, not miracles or wishful thinking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Snake.
All right.
And now we will kick it over
Thank you,
to
sweetie.
Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, Snake's my friend. If you're not subscribed to Snake, refresh the thing, and his link should be in the comments. Yeah. Am I watching this? Where? I thought I had it open. Here it is. I don't know why I closed it. But yeah, make sure you like Snake and whatnot. Because, yeah. Oh, it looks like Spatchcock has Megan and Josh on 30 minutes ago. I forgot about that being tonight. I could probably go over there and do that after we get into the opening discussion a little bit.
For your opening statement, Dr. Thompson, at your first word, I'll start your timer. The floor is all yours. And you're muted, I think.
You're muted.
Yeah, still muted.
I should be open now. All right. Great. So, very nice job, Taylor.
He's like
a little bit about
me.
I'm Chris Thompson. I'm a professor of neuroscience at Virginia Tech.
See, he's a neuroscientist, and even he does it. See, y'all need to get on my back about it. No, just joking. I love you guys. Don't leave me.
I'm not an expert in evolutionary biology. I did study evolution at the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. It doesn't make me an expert. I do find this topic to be very interesting. It's something that I'm pretty passionate about, which is why I like, talking about this. I do study how hormones shape, my lab studies this, how hormones shape the development and plasticity of neural circuits. And we study this in a wide range of species. We can do this because all animals are descended from a single common ancestor, and we can use the same comparative morphology arguments that Taylor made very explicitly and, compare these things to the human condition. The views I expressed tonight are my own. So, lots of lines of evidence to support evolution. Taylor just walked through most of it. Fossil evidence, really nice description of comparative morphology. Biogeography is another one that I would like to get into if we have time tonight. But one thing I'm going to highlight is genetics. So genetics is really a slam dunk case for evolution. Chromosomes are very similar in closely related species, and then they start to vary more as you get farther apart from evolutionary relationships. So amongst the great apes, we can look at chromosome patterns and see that they're very, very similar. For instance, this is an image taken from a paper from 1982 published in Science. What we're looking at is the chromosome patterns in the great apes.
971.
So let's take
awesome.
a little closer look at
Keep
one
them
of these.
coming,
So
guys.
this is chromosome 1.
Subscribe,
And
please.
What we have here is the chromosome 1 of humans,
they put RN on
chimps,
there.
gorillas, and orangutans. And as you can see, the overall pattern is incredibly similar. This is true across all chromosomes. Now, of course, it's not just about patterning. We can look at the genetic or protein level, and we can see very similar patterns in closely related species. For instance, this is one of Sal Cordova's favorite proteins, the DNA topoisomerase 1. And you can see that the protein sequence from humans versus chimps is identical, 100%. Every single amino acid is exactly the same. This is generally going to be true when you compare proteins or genes between chimps and humans. You're going to find some differences, but a lot of similarities. Now, if we add a third species to look at, for instance, a mouse, we can start to see some differences. So if you compare the human sequence to the mouse sequence, we start to see substitutions and insertions. This is the phylogenetic challenge. So we can take the phylogenetic challenge. The phylogenetic challenge is you have two animals and then a third animal. You can compare all three animals. You're inevitably going to find two of them to be more similar than the third. And this is going to be true within kinds, but it's also going to be true outside of kinds. And you're going to go
Phylogeny challenge.
further and further down.
Yeah, the premiere in half an hour. We're looking at, what is it? I know it's Creation Launch Wednesday. So, yeah, just got a notification about it. I won't go too much longer on this anyway. Not tonight. I might finish watching it again later though. Who are we watching tonight? It is Creation Unfolding. So it's the coelacanth stuff. That'll be fun. Yeah, so let's pop over there in just a minute. I'm making you guys follow me everywhere. I didn't intend to like live stream it all tonight. I was literally just going to do the video test, right? And make sure that I didn't get any copyright strikes or anything on it, that I could go through and view it and check for any red flags that come up. So far none, by the way, none for that video. So that's good news. All right, so let's at least get through Dr. Thompson's intro.
The line. So for instance, we can go further down the line here and compare, say, humans to chickens or mice, and then you're going to find that the human and mouse is going to be similar, more similar than either of them are to the chicken. And then from there, you can go humans and chickens versus, say, fish or the roundworm, and you're going to find more and more differences, yet a lot of similarities. We can go on and on with every single gene in the genome, just like this. So let's go back to the chromosomes, and one thing someone might have noticed is that, oh, you know what, Dr. Chris, what you talking about? You know, we got 23 pairs of chromosomes in humans, but 24 pairs of chromosomes in the other great apes. You know, why are humans different from the other great apes as far as numbers of chromosomes go? Well, one thing that we do know is that if we look at chromosome
fusion,
2,
yeah.
So right up here, this is chromosome 2. We see that humans have a single pair for chromosome 2, yet for chimps, gorillas, and orangutans,
Mark's debating the flurfer.
Two pairs
goodness.
of chromosomes that share similarity with one half of the human version and another half of the human version. What this means is that there must have been a fusion event, a chromosome fusion event between 2A and 2B on the lineage to come to humans. We know this because we can see that there's a telomere fusion site where these ends would have fused. And we also know that there's a cryptid centromere, which is like the origin point within a chromosome. These little notches are centromeres. There's a cryptid centromere, so it's all broken down in the exact place where that would have been. What this means is that in the phylogenetic tree for the great apes, the chromosomes 2A and 2B must have fused in after the last common ancestor between humans and chimps. We can also talk about endogenous, the sites of endogenous retroviruses throughout the genome. I'm not going to go through that data right now. Perhaps we can talk about it in a little bit. But this is fully consistent with the idea of descent with modification, and it completely contradicts any version of the creationist model. So what do creationists believe? Well, they believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old, 6,500 years old. That extra 500 years actually makes a difference. Versus what evolutionists believe, which is on the order of 4.6 billion years old. So we're talking many orders of magnitude different. The first man was created from a pile of dust, as Jamie referred to, and that the first woman was created from a man's rib. And I'm kind of curious how the genetics worked on that.
Me too.
That there was a worldwide flood 2,000 years after creation.
Seems like it was just that way to make the patriarchy feel superior, since the Christian faith is built upon a patriarchy.
That killed almost all life on Earth, and that was around 4,400 years ago. That there was a man and his 3 sons built a wooden boat and put pairs, sometimes 7 pairs, of 1,384 different quote-unquote kinds of animals on that boat. I get that number from Answers in Genesis. I know creationists debate how many kinds there are. They can't even really give a good definition for What a kind is, hopefully that's something we can get into. They believe that all the diversity that we see currently on life on Earth within kinds emerged within the just last 4,400 years. And despite the fact that
Dr. Mordecai, if you want me to be nasty, you got to pay extra.
virtually every single kind would have faced near extinction due to inbreeding depression. And then the last thing I'm going to mention is that humanity, so according to creationists, they believe that humanity tried to build a tower up to heaven, but God put a stop to it, and he confused their languages. And so therefore all of humanity had to disperse, and they believe that this is then the model for the evolution of language. This completely contradicts everything in the field of linguistics.
It's funny because I thought that was real, Sandy. I thought that the difference in the ribs was real because someone told me that. I think it was a doctor that told me that. Anyway, when I was a kid, or he was a health teacher. I don't remember. When you're little, they're the same thing, though.
Linguistics, anthropology, and neuroscience. And so hopefully this is some things that we can get into. And I'm going to leave it there.
All right. Thank you so much, Team Team Evolution. We will go ahead and kick it into the open discussion in just a moment. But before we do that, I just want to let everybody know, especially if it's your first time joining us on Modern Day Debate, that we are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. And we want you to feel welcome no matter what walk of life you're from. And if you have a question or a comment for one of tonight's debaters, fire it into the old live chat and be sure to tag me at Modern Day Debate. Super chats will go to the top of the list. All we ask is that you keep it civil, attack the argument and not the person, as insults will not be read. And our guests are linked to the description below, whether you're listening on YouTube or one of the many podcast platforms that we are on. So if you like what you've heard tonight, please don't hesitate to hit those links and hit the subscribe button, because we have plenty more debates coming your way that you don't want to miss, including I believe tomorrow at 1 p.m. We
species that have variables between the
Matt Dillahunty. They're going to be debating Islam. So that's
between the number of vertebrae or the number of ribs that the individuals have. Horses have variability between the number of ribs they have, and there's species that have variability between the number of chromosomes they have across the species, or that the males of the species have. I think they have less chromosomes than the men, than the female. Let me look that up because I don't want to misspeak, because I'm. Let's see. So. Yeah, muntjacs have different chromosomes. Let's see, they're a deer with low diploid numbers. This is from PubMed, like way back in 1970. Yeah, the muntjac. Ranging between 2n equals 6 or 7 and 2n equals 46. So, yeah. Interesting stuff about these chromosome factors that people don't talk about. Yeah, let me bring that over here. Yeah, we'll revisit this some other time maybe, but because I got to premiere in a minute. But yeah, this is cute little deer, a muntjac. Sure, I accept your cookies. Evo community. Sounds based, I'm in. So, muntjacs aren't the familiar deer species that occasionally hang out in one's backyard. So, I was quite surprised when seeing it appear on a Berkeley local news one time when I was still a postdoc at UC Berkeley. The Chinese muntjac, Muntiacus revesi, are called the little muntjac in Chinese, while in English they are called barking deers, all as they bark like a dog. The Chinese muntjac becomes vulnerable to let's see, is it going to tell us about the genetics? Endangered species. Yeah, they are definitely endangered. I don't want to downplay that. Back in the era of cytogenetics, one important way of defining a species is relying on their observed differences in chromosome numbers and morphology, or to a finer scale, banding patterns, so that homologous chromosomes and chromosomal rearrangements can be inferred between species. It was already known that karyotypes of gibbons ranged from 2N, which equals 38, to 2N, which equals 52, within their about 6 million years of divergence. But muntjacs push the extent of chromosomal number variation and how fast such variations evolve to another level. Within the estimated 3 million years of divergence, since the chromosome number ranged from only 2N, that's 6 for the female, and 7 for the male, so difference between the sexes, let's keep that in mind as well. Chromosomes from the Indian muntjac to 2N, 8, and or 9 for the male, and or let's see, 4 to 46, or muntjac Chinese figure 1B for the Chinese muntjac. Okay. Excuse me, making the Indian and black muntjac within the lowest chromosome number known so far in mammals. So yeah, they have like within the range of the species of the clade, of the kind, or what they would call a kind, what the creationist would. There's literally that big of a range from, look at that, from 46, which is, what you expect. It's, up around the same level, same range as humans that you hear a lot about horses, because you hear a lot about the difference between like horses and zebras or things like that. But 46, between that and 8, like literally 8. That's it. Isn't that wild? Anyway, that's me ranting about evolution and stuff. I'll be ranting more about evolution over in my premiere in like 10 minutes. So I want to tell everybody to please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. Much love from the Hive.